Everybody, welcome to day 4 of our gratitude series. And I'm excited for this type of format. I don't normally teach this style of yoga very often. I love to practice it and I do love to teach it. However, it's just not something that I do often because it requires us, for the most part, to be pretty much on the ground. And for the population of students that I mostly serve, it's just not really functional. So I'm excited to actually share this with you. I have a couple tools that I want to go through just for you to gather up. So listen to this portion and then hit pause and then run, get what you need, and then join me again. So I have 2 yoga blocks. I'm going to be using these to support my legs when I come into some postures. I'm also going to demonstrate how to use this block in a pose. I'm going to show you a variety of ways to get into this. I also have a bolster. This could be just a long pillow. It's not super thick. Some bolsters come a little bit wider. I opted to get the thinner ones because they're less cumbersome and they take up less space. And since I have 20 of them, I needed to have access to be able to store them for my classes. But you could also use a rolled up yoga mat instead of a bolster. Okay, so if you have an extra one of these and you don't have a bolster or a long rectangular shaped pillow, go ahead and just grab another yoga mat. And then I have a blanket. This could be any kind of blanket. It could be a throw from your sofa. And so I like to use blankets underneath my hips to bring my hips higher than my knees. And that just is something that creates a little bit more comfort in my body. So I've elevated my bum, and that has allowed my hips to be higher than my knees. And that allows me to then sit in this cross legged position that I often say is not available to me. Now it's available. So, this style of yoga today is going to be pleasure seeking restorative yoga. And restorative yoga is something that's nice to practice when the body needs a complete reset. Like we're exhausted, maybe we're healing from an illness, maybe we've gone through a really traumatic event in our life and we want to restore mind, body, spirit back into balance, which means that there is nothing that we're going to do today that's standing up. It's completely designed to be comfortable and bring pleasure to the body, or at least maybe not pleasure, but a pleasant sensation. Okay, we're not going to be straining any muscles. We're not going to be doing anything drastic. So, the first thing I'd like for you to do is just to sit comfortable like me. And even though I have my hips higher than my knees, I can immediately start to feel some pressure building up in my legs. So, I'm going to take my handy blocks and just place them underneath my knees, which now has brought the floor higher, which we talked about last month and the previous month, and how we use some of these tools to help our body really get into a great place without straining the body. So my hips are high, my knees are supported. I'm in a good place. Like I'm feeling great right now. So belly is soft, heart is lifted, and I'm just going to find heart and belly. Okay. So today's practice is about discovering pleasure, peacefulness, a pleasant sensation in the body. But then the work of today's practice, when we think of the contemplative side of this series, is what areas of your life bring you pleasure, where you feel comfortable, you feel good, and you want to take that good feeling that you have and then transfer it into something powerful. So, pleasure looks like in my world long walks in nature. I find that to be very pleasant. I like to be surrounded by trees. I like the feeling of groundedness. I love to take hot bubble baths. That's really something that I do on a daily basis is sink into a giant tub of good smells, and that brings pleasure to my body. I'm happy to be teaching this today because I have one of my favorite sweaters. If this sweater ever dies, I'm going to be grieving because it's cozy, it's soft, it feels pleasant on my skin. It just is wonderful. Okay, so think about areas of your life where there is pleasure. Maybe it's lingering over a cup of coffee with a friend, or lollygagging in bed with a good book. Like, think of those parts of your life that bring you pleasure. And unfortunately, we spend way too much time out of pleasure. We're working, we're busy, we're doing things. And when busyness became a sort of status symbol for our worthiness, our world shifted. And so I'm reclaiming that part of me that I can be just as worthy by finding stillness and pleasure and self-care and self-love, especially in younger females. I think that's really hard. I think we want to give to our young children, give to our spouse, and we're last on the list. So if you're in that category, you get extra love. Okay. All right. I think the older we get, or I like to say the wiser we get, the more we see our value is not based upon our busyness, but instead our value is based upon our goodness. And the only way to discover that goodness is to give to yourself. So we're going to give to ourselves today. All right. So you can see by just sitting comfortably, hips higher than the knees, got a little support under my knees. I'm feeling really, really good. So we're going to transition to our first pose. There won't be a lot of poses because in restorative yoga, you stay for quite some time. You linger. Bring your blocks with you. I'm going to turn my blanket so now it's widthwise on my mat. We're going to come into reclined butterfly. So bring your feet close to your cheeks, about 12 inches, and then soles of your feet come together. Make sure that the knees are supported by the blocks, and then begin to recline down onto the floor. All the way down we go. And so if you need to adjust the blocks, feel free to do that. I always like to connect my hands to my body. Take a big breath in. Empty the breath. And then just scan the body here. Okay, so where in your body can you make a tiny adjustment to bring about more pleasure? Okay, so I just separated my shoulder blades, tucked my chin a little bit, got some length in the back of my neck. Allow the eyes to drift close. The eyeballs become heavy in the head. And then notice your teeth. We all have a tendency to clench. So see if you can keep the lips sealed closed, but separate the rows of teeth. So you have this little space. And that allows the tongue to kind of sink a little bit. And then with your hands on your body, notice the slow and peaceful rhythm of your heart. Notice the slow and rhythmic nature of your breath. Feel the spine that is pressing onto the floor, the sacrum. Feel the stretch through the inner thighs, through the groin. Feel that comfort of just allowing rather than having muscles do all the work. You're just resting those knees on the blocks. You could use pillows. There's this simplicity to stillness. I often say that sometimes we get so hurried in our thoughts and in our actions. It's like we're a pitcher of water that has sand in it. Because we move at such a fast speed and we're constantly doing and doing and doing and doing, but that sand just turns into muddy water. But if we were to set that pitcher onto a counter or a table and just let it sit and let it be, not disrupt it, slowly by slowly, the sand will settle at the bottom. And in time, the water becomes clear again. A restorative practice is designed to bring that clarity, and to bring that sense of stillness back into the body, into the mind, and then ultimately into the spirit, where we can access that heart space of ours that's constantly seeking gratitude, seeking the good in our life, rather than being popular amongst the culture of complainers Not enough time, not enough sleep, not enough energy, not enough staff, not enough money, not enough. And here, there's plenty. There's plenty. Take just a few more breaths here. And don't be afraid to give yourself permission to have a yoga practice that's designed to restore rather than to work out. Just allow the body to find pleasure. One more breath. The hands will slip off the body. Close up your knees. And then I'm going to slide my blanket out from under me, and I'm going to exchange that blanket for a block. And I'm going to bring the block horizontally and just rest it on my sacrum. So it's not on my spine whatsoever. It's on that triangular bone called the sacrum. And my hands are just going to wrap around the block. And this is a beautiful posture called bridge pose. And typically in a traditional bridge pose, there's a lot of hamstring involvement. There's a lot of lengthening through the front of the body to elevate the hips. There's some strength in the legs. Requires a lot. But here in supported bridge, there is a settling that happens, and yet we get the same benefit. And notice here with your upper body in a diagonal slant, the heart is higher than the head, which is a powerful reminder that if we were to lead with our heart rather than our thoughts, the world just might be a better place. If we all led from a place of compassion and kindness and love, rather than separation and judgment, comparison and competition, worry about the past or the future, simply led with love. What that might do for the greater world. Go ahead and hold on to that block and just let one leg float to the sky and let the other leg float to the sky. This is shoulder stand in a very modified fashion. And what this does is it allows all of the blood to be recycled. You can imagine just this pose is sometimes called waterfall, but there's just this cleansing to our tired legs that have done so much. We return all of that blood and that energy right back into the heart. And this style of yoga is beautiful to do at the end of a day or on a lazy Sunday afternoon to reset the body. So just know that you can always come back and revisit these videos anytime that you'd like to. And just feel that cleansing action as the legs are just suspended with no effort. I mean, we could be here all day. The research is really pretty heavy in what legs up the wall or legs extended up like this does for our nervous system. And most of the time, especially in our busy lives, we are in a constant state of motion, which doesn't lend itself for pleasure very often, right? We're busy doing and giving and working, driving, chatting. And so our nervous system is typically in a fight or flight or freeze or fawn, just kind of going, adjusting to all the circumstances of being human. But we can come back into the comfort and restore type of nervous system known as the parasympathetic, which is where we rest and digest all of the same things that happen throughout our day, but we do so in a way that's pleasurable, right? That's calm and restorative. 2 more breaths here. So different, so nice. Just very gently, one by one, bring the feet back to the ground. And then lift your hips up just for a moment. And then lower all the way down to the mat. So I want to walk us through an extreme heart opening yoga posture. And this is where you're going to use that rolled up yoga mat or a bolster. I'm going to use my bolster. Works in the same way as a yoga mat rolled up. So I'm going to be sitting upright and I have this bolster squished into my backside. Okay. That's where I want to be. I'm going to toss a block up there if I need it. I may not need it. So this is called fish pose, but it's a supported fish. So I'll show you the traditional fish when we're done with the restorative fish. But it's not something I would recommend trying unless you're working closely one-on-one with somebody. Okay, so we're going to lean back over the bolster. And my head is just going to trickle off the bolster. Okay, begin to straighten your legs and then take your arms out to the side, palm face up. And then try to separate your shoulder blades. Oh, I could be here all day. Around the yoga bolster or the yoga mat. And for this particular posture and class format, let your toes flop outward and just fully let go of the leg activity. So you can see here and feel the front seam of your body is elevated as the shoulder blades are wrapped around the bolster. Close your eyes and just feel that. Feel the skin on your chest gently pulling away from the sternum. It's so good. Okay, it's such a beautiful, beautiful heart opener with no effort. To me, this feels incredibly comfortable, incredibly pleasurable. I feel like with my head dripping over the bolster, my chin is to the sky and there's an opening through my throat, through my heart. When those two areas of our body are open, it lends itself to expressing gratitude, right? Our throat is where we speak the truth. And so some of the practices that we're doing this 10 days is designed to experience the gratitude in our lives, experience the blessings in the present moment as we did yesterday, through our senses, through the people that bring us happiness. And today it's the absolute pleasure that our body can experience, even when maybe we're struggling with some pain in our lives, but to find little moments of pleasure throughout the day. And that could be that first cup of coffee in the morning. It could be settling into warm jammies at night and anything in between. And then we take some of these practices and we learn to express our gratitude by stating it boldly. And whether that's in the contemplative aspect of this series of writing down the things that I'm encouraging you to pay attention to, or typing them into a phone document or an app, or simply expressing them to yourself or a loved one. But sharing this experience through the expression of our gratitude is so important. Take just a couple more breaths here. And then to come out of this pose, you'll bring your hands down by your side and just hold on to your body or tuck your thumbs underneath your cheeks. Bring the knees up, plant the feet, and then you'll simply tip the knees over to one side, roll over to one side, and push yourself up gently. Okay, so I encourage you to revisit this practice. If something feels really good and you want to linger longer, come back to this and do it all again. I'm going to show you the next version of fish. Don't necessarily have to practice this. I just want to show you that if your body really feels good in that pose and you like it, the next level of a supported fish is to use a block. And that block's going to land right between my shoulder blades. And so I'm just going to lay over it. This is a little bit uncomfortable for some people, but just look what happens to the heart, right? So look, I'm tucking my crown of my head on to the ground and I have this big arch here. So again, I'm not having to use any musculature to make this posture happen. To me, it feels delightful. Some people have found this feels good, and then they might prefer to take a yoga block back there and rest their head. Still got the beautiful heart opening aspect to the pose. It's just not as much strain on the neck. So this is an option for a little different restorative version of fish. Now, once you find yourself feeling like, I want to practice fish more often, because if you think about it, most of us have a rounded spine because we're typing, we're driving, we're in pain, we're protecting our heart. We don't want to reveal, the beautiful heart because man, it can get hurt. So for a lot of us, we may not even realize it, but our shoulders go from being away, which leads us to lend itself to an open heart, to just simply rounding a slight bit. Well, all that does is close up that heart a little bit. So fish pose practice regularly can really kind of reverse that. It can bubble up some emotion. So just know that. I'll show you the traditional version of fish that requires some musculature, and it's not something that I would do a lot without somebody kind of walking you through it. But I'll just show you so that you have a frame of reference of where the restorative aspects come from, that we can use these tools like a block, a blanket, a bolster to get into some of the harder poses. So hands are going to go down like this underneath your bum. So thumbs hook together, the thumbs touch. I'm basically sitting on my hands with the palms down, straightening my legs. I'm going to lay down. Okay. My elbows are splayed out. Okay. So once I get into fish, I will not be turning my head. So I'm going to go ahead and tip my nose straight up to the ceiling. Here's where we get into fish. You're going to lift the chest and tuck the elbows under and then lower the head. Point your pretty toes. And so as you observe me in this fish pose, you can see my throat is incredibly open. My heart is incredibly open. I'm not drilling onto the top of my head. It's just barely touching. And my elbows, see that? I'm lifting the heart through my elbows. This is fish pose, but it's a lot of work to come out of fish. You rise up, oof, tuck the chin, and then come. Okay. So I would stick with a yoga mat, a bolster, or blocks to get into fish. But just doing that 2 or 3 breaths of a traditional fish, my heart is pumping. Okay. It's a lot on the heart. It's a lot on the sternum. So go ahead and find yourself back on your back. I made a bad choice in wearing a ponytail today, knowing I would be having some restorative yoga time. So we're going to come into a nice twist here. You don't necessarily need the blocks. They're nice if you need them, but don't necessarily have to have them. Walk your feet as wide as your yoga mat. And then drop your knees over to the left. Okay, so we're going to feel this beautiful rotation through the belly, up into the heart. I'm going to move my tools out of the way so I can tee out my arms, palm face up, and I can really feel this expansion through my chest, especially after fish. But take your right knee and force it forward and down, and then your right arm is going to sweep up and behind you. So this right side body that we worked day 1, if you remember, we were focusing on the rib area. We're really feeling a nice stretch here. Feels delightful. Now, if you'd like a tiny bit more, take your left foot and plop it on top of the right thigh. It may be too much. It's too much for me. I just prefer to let gravity do the work rather than any extra musculature or force on my part. Okay, so just feel that. We won't be here too long. Just a couple more breaths. And then we'll inhale up to the sky. Tee out the arms again. Drop your knees to the right this time, letting the left knee be the one that's focusing on forward and down. Once you find that forward and down, take your left arm above your head and feel that big stretch through the left side body. So good. We certainly don't come here enough. Two more breaths. Feeling pleasure in that twist and the lengthening. Return the arms to a T shape. Bring the knees back to center. Draw the knees into your chest and just give a soft squeeze. Release the low back. Circle your ankles, maybe one direction and then the other direction, or point and flex. We don't pay attention to some of those other less used joints. We pay a lot of attention to knees and hips, but what about ankles and toes? So nice. Now just roll over to one side. And then you're going to grab a couple pillows if you have them, a bolster if you have one. You could even line your yoga blocks into a train like this. Okay. So either way, we're going to come into child's pose. And here's where you can use that blanket. Okay, so if you have tender knees or you just want a little extra cushion, because remember, restorative is all about pleasure. It's all about finding what feels good in our body and not necessarily pushing through pain, as sometimes we do in life and in yoga, but how about pushing in pleasure, you know? Okay, so I'm going to have my knees on the blanket and I'm just going to take my body and drape it over my bolster into child's pose. Okay, so my hips are high. They won't be high forever. I'm actually going to walk my bolster out in front just a little bit. And then I'm just going to lay my head onto the bolster. Now, you can also have pillows underneath the belly and just really feel that connection, such as this. If you don't have a bolster, take your yoga blocks, stack them like a train, and then just rest your head on your yoga blocks. Okay, so just as a nice thing. If you have extra yoga blocks, it's nice also to put a yoga block underneath your seat or a pillow back there. So I have the block on my heels and allowing my bum to rest there. It's just taking tools, pillows are fine. And using these tools to find comfort and pleasure in the pose rather than using any sort of effort. And just feeling and breathing nice and slow here. 2 more breaths. But you can always return. This is just a guide. We'll rise up, move the tools away, and then come on down and sit on your right cheek. We come to this often because it feels just so good. And I'm going to show you how to do this in a restorative way. So we're going to take a block and just place it to the outside of the right knee. And I'm just going to spill over it. I'm just going to spill over it. Okay. And so here I'm going to stack the yoga block on its tall end and allow my forehead to connect. This gives my head a place to land. It gives my body a chance to not have any tension in the neck or shoulders. But I feel that rotation through my spine and through my belly. Two more breaths. Hands return to the mat. Bring the block with you and just switch over to the other side. So you can see in a restorative practice, it's very slow. I'm actually going quite fast through this so that you have a chance to just kind of observe the body in a stiller space, and then you can always come back. So go ahead and rotate to the left. If you need to have 2 blocks to allow your forehead to get to a place of landing, that's okay too. And when we push against the forehead, as we've talked about before, it quiets down the mind. Feel that there's no tension in the body, no effort. One more breath here. Return the hands to the mat. Just come on up to a seat. So I'm actually going to transition my feet underneath me because that feels really nice for me. My spine is tall, and I want to just tune into the body. What did that feel like to have my heart lifted with no effort? What did it feel like to have my legs just waterfalling back to my spirit? What did it feel like to be in that butterfly with the blocks underneath my legs and not have any effort? Okay, so think about pleasure on the yoga mat. What does that look like for you? how can you adjust your practice or come to a restorative style of practice maybe once a week and just bring this stillness and peacefulness into your body. And then as you go about your day, or if you're practicing this at night and you're sort of doing the next day lesson, today's lesson tomorrow, just find pleasure in your day. Really savor that first bite of breakfast, or savor that first sip of hot coffee, or as you lay into your bubble bath, or take a hot shower, or put on your favorite gray sweater that you've had for so long. Like, find pleasure in the things that maybe you just overlook, or you're like, yeah, this is great coffee, but really soak in pleasure. Find the things that feel good, the people that feel good, and then just make note of that throughout this day of pleasure. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. If you would like to borrow a couple bolsters or a bolster for your practice at home, I have plenty. I rarely use them because I don't teach restorative yoga in my studio very often. So this is an open door. So if you live local and you'd like to come borrow some of the tools, feel free to do that. And isn't this gray sweater the coziest, most perfect thing? All right, dear friends, I will see you tomorrow for day 5.